Hello. This video is about master cylinders for the Type 3. I'm replacing mine because when I was getting an alignment done, the guy who was doing the alignment was saying like, hey man, your master cylinder's leaking. It's just a little like drip, drip, drip sort of situation. So you should probably look into replacing that. And to be honest with you, this is the last part of the whole brake system of the car that I haven't replaced. I mean, I've rebuilt the calipers and, you know, done all the pads. Not new lines. Don't have to change the lines. The lines are fine so far. Brake cylinders, brake shoe rebuilds for the rear, all that jazz. This is the last bit that could possibly fail on the car. And it did fail because it's old. I mean, look at it. This is how they're supposed to look. Like, yeah, one's nicer than the other one. So I've been on a bit of an odyssey here, and in the process of being on that odyssey, I've learned quite a bit, which I'm going to share with you guys in case you don't know them. So basically, the Type 3 Masters are essentially the same across years. I think the split is 69, where you had to have a specific line for it. So I think the 69 ones are specific. And the differences, other than the 69, are the internal bore sizes past that, and then the internal bore sizes previous to that. And they're all denoted by like there's 19, I think there's 18 and 17. Basically, if you are replacing one of these, if you take it off the car and it has 19 on it, make sure that the one that you replace is 19 as well. That's basically it. Like the bore size indications here, like the 15 and such, like that's all internal, like whatever, it doesn't really matter. If you're buying an actual new master cylinder, like you don't have to worry about, you really don't have to worry about that because it's already going to come with all the internals in it already. So all you have to do is put the brake light switch on. That's really all you have to do. But yeah, this one is replaced because there's a hairline. I noticed that there's a hairline crack right here, and I actually noticed that today. I was just gonna rebuild the internals, get new everything on it, new rubbers, new brake lines, all that stuff, and then just throw it back on the car. But then I noticed this little hairline crack here, and that is definitely good enough to cause a leak. And it's gonna grow over time, and it's best to just replace the damn thing. These things are not cheap. If you go German, which you should because it's a part of your brake system, and that's not a system that you want to be cheaping out on. If you go German, the ATE, I believe, is the manufacturer. ATE. They're like $150 a pop. And I was stupid, and I actually ruined one. This is the first one I got, and I ruined it because of what I'm going to go over later with the brake light switches. I definitely learned my lesson there, so I'm going to share that with you guys. But let's talk about rebuilding and like what it actually like all looks like underneath there. Like if you are going to rebuild it. So if you like, rebuilding is always the cheapest way to go. Obviously, because a rebuild kit is like $20 versus like 160-ish for a full one of these. So if you can rebuild it, if your actual housing is still in good shape, you know, you should probably rebuild it. So if you're going to rebuild it, there's a few, it's really not that complicated. It's, if you've ever rebuilt a brake master cylinder on a motorcycle, it's the same thing pretty much. Opening here, so like let me just show you how it all sort of looks, the internal pistons and whatnot. So from the mouth, it basically looks like this. Like that's like this is the back of it, this is the front, the mouth of it that goes into the car, into your brake pedal. So back, front, and this is pretty much how it all fits together. There's two pieces, this pusher and this pusher here. And it's important to look at it to see a few things. Like one, like all of these gaskets are flared, and you got to make sure they're all flared in the right direction. So you don't want to have it like this or like that, because then it just won't, it won't push anything. But it's really easy. Just slide this part in, and then slide this part in, and that's pretty much it. It'll seal itself in. One part that I do see that is a little hard if you're rebuilding is this little cap that goes on the back of your spring here. If you take this out, if you disassemble it, which I haven't found a better way than just like getting the master cylinder and just like pounding it, because the front part here will come out no problem. Like basically when you take this off of here, take the circlip out of here, like it'll basically just spring out, and you just grab it and pull it out, no problem. But this one sits down in here and doesn't want to move. So what you have to do, and like hopefully if it's like a worn out one, it won't take too much effort. Basically you just take the mouth against a piece of wood, something soft, and just pound it until it sort of slides itself out. And that's pretty much it as far as a rebuild goes. But if you're doing that, a lot of times this little bit at the bottom here is left behind, and if it's left behind you really can't get at it because it's just like this doesn't stay on here. It's not like sealed on here any certain way. It just sort of like lays on top there. So when you're pounding this out, this thing's not going to come with it, so it's probably going to be still down in there. So if you're rebuilding it and this doesn't come with it, just take it off and just push it in there, because this is still in there. You hoping that the last person that rebuilt it put this thing in there. But that's pretty much it. It goes like that, push it in, there you go. Nice and easy. That's pretty much the rebuild kit. And then, you know, there's a washer. There's a washer that goes there, that holds it all down, and then a circlip that goes in there that holds it all together. And then you just put a screwdriver in there and make sure that it pumps and does its thing. And that's it. That's pretty much rebuilding the master cylinder. I messed up because now let's talk about the brake light switch, which is the other part of this whole equation. And why I spent more money than I had to on this stupid thing. I had to buy two brand new ATE master cylinders, and I ruined one of them. Fucking great, right? It's not like they're making any more of them. So anyways, I messed up. When you're putting on these brake light switches, which are pretty like interesting things, because usually brake light switches on modern cars are electronically controlled. This is hydraulically controlled. So there's a little pusher in here that when you push on the gas push on the brake and basically send the brake fluid out to everywhere in the system to, you know, to clamp everything down, it pushes on this, pushes a little ball, I think it's a ball bearing or it's something like that, basically pushes it forward and pretty much activates the switch here, which will tell the brake lights to light up. So there's a little thing here, fluid goes through there. It's another part of this whole equation where potentially you can have a leak. So it's important to be good about these sort of things. Good about these sort of things. What do I mean by that? Like, just make sure that's done right? So what I did, and one thing that I noticed when I have like, and again, like these are German brake light switches. They're unfortunately about 15 to 20 bucks a pop. You need two of them. But again, it's like if you have to replace these things, then you have to re-bleed your entire system. So again, if you're doing this work, if you have your master cylinder off, it behooves you to just spend the extra money. Instead of the 10 bucks at AutoZone, spend the 20 bucks like from an actual supplier and get the right stuff so that you don't have to touch this for another like 60 to 100,000 miles. If anyone's actually driving their Squareback that much anymore. But I think it's the same for the Beetle. It's the same idea for the Beetle too. Anyways, so I fucked up because I started cranking these down in here. And what I've noticed with the ATE ones, with the new ones, is like these threads are really, really, really tight. And they don't like to go. You know, like you can't hand tight it. Like you can't like hand put it down. It gets to like here. And then you have to start cranking it. And the thing is about how the brake light switches are set up is that because it's a fluid system, basically like it doesn't, like this threaded bit right here doesn't go into this housing at all. It's actually like, it actually like stops right at this flat bit right here. So there's no strength in this threading at all. And also there's even less strength because there's a gigantic hole in it. So what that means is that you cannot crank this down, otherwise you are going to just shear this entire thing off, and you're going to have basically this stuck in here. And ask me how I know, because I did that. And that's the reason why I had to replace this master, because one other thing that I messed up with, and this is something that I knew I should have done, but I was rushing, and you know, now it cost me money. But what I should have done is, like, I had an extraction tool in there, and I was trying to get it out. So, you know, you drill in here and then pound the extraction tool in there and try and torque it off. It was working, but I didn't set my depth well enough. What I should have done is taken like my drill bit. Oh shit, watch it guys. Took my drill bit and, like, as an example, like checked the like depth on this one, and been like basically like put a piece of tape right there and be like, okay, that's like bottom depth, don't go beyond that. And I knew I should have done that, but I didn't do that because I was rushing, and I was like upset that it got sheared off in the first place. So I was, instead of like backing off and going and doing something else, I was like, ugh, fuck this, and just kept going. It was stupid. So I drilled through that into the actual bore here, and I don't know if I ruined it, but definitely it's not perfect anymore. So I drilled through that. So I decided I had to go and get another one. So learn from my mistake, please, because the shit's expensive. And I had to pay for my mistake. Hopefully you won't have to pay for my mistake. So, one more quick thing to go over before I show you the right way to put these brake light switches in is the, come on, buddy. Damn, these things are fucking on there. Okay, so the brake lines, this hose bit right here. When I took this off, initially what I thought was causing the leak was that these hoses that connect the hard lines to the master cylinder, there's a little bit of hose here. On my car, they were fuel hoses. And fuel hoses are not what you're supposed to use for this, because fuel hoses will get eaten up by brake fluid, because brake fluid is fucking terrible shit. So I figured it was because it was swelling and it was starting to leak, but it was actually that little hairline fracture. So what I did was I went and I got from J-Bugs, like about a couple feet, maybe I think 2 feet, of this actual VW brake braided whatever the hell this is, hose. And this is what you're supposed to use. This used to be blue, but now for whatever reason the manufacturer puts them out as white, or as black. It used to be blue, now they're black. It's the same thing, but if you want the actual blue stuff, you're gonna have to pay a premium. But I don't think anyone takes Squarebacks that seriously, where they would absolutely need the blue one. But if that's your thing, you're paying for it. The black stuff is pretty easy to come by, but you have to use this stuff. Do not use like fuel hose. Do not use, for God's sake, don't use vacuum hose. Don't use heater hose. Use this shit. Like, again, it's your brake system on an old car. Why would you half-ass shit? Like, half-ass other parts of the car. Don't half-ass your brakes. Spend the money, get the shit that's right. And this stuff is really tight because now I can't fucking get it off. So good thing I got a couple feet of this stuff, because I think I might have to just throw this out because I can't get it off again. So yeah, this is the stuff. That's what you want. It's not that expensive. It's just you know, you have to wait for it. So I would replace that stuff if you notice that the stuff on there is not the actual the right line, and it's like fuel line or something. So anyways, let's talk brake switches. So when you're putting these things on, you'll notice, and by the way, this is a 24 if anyone cares. You're putting these guys on here, you'll notice that it is just really, it gets to a point and then it's just really tough to get these guys going down. And again, because of the makeup of these things, you don't really want to force them. So the best thing to do is what I'm doing right here. Let's just back it off, tighten it. Whoa, shit. Ow. Just do that little dance for a while, and eventually it'll close itself up. Maybe it would be easier if, like, put a little brake fluid in there or something. I don't know. I don't think it would be like that much easier, but the fact of the matter is that, you know, you get to around here and then it stops going, and you have to be careful with this stuff again because, you know, it's not very strong. So I'm gonna do that back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and get these brake switches on here, and then I'll go under the car, put it on there, and hopefully show you like how to reset your brake pedal and all that stuff. Another thing to keep in mind is when you have this boot on here, there's a hole. The hole goes on the bottom, not the top. It goes on the bottom. Pro tip. But anyways, that's enough bench work. Start actually putting this on the car. And by the way, being that the Squareback is pretty much done, my next project, I'm going to actually start working on my Subaru again. So videos of that to come, and then immense amounts of hate because the Subaru community is pretty bro-y and they all know absolutely everything. So looking forward to dealing with those guys. You Volkswagen people are just the fucking best people on earth. I love you guys. But yeah, looking forward to that one for sure. And we're under the car, and the master cylinder is pretty much installed. I'll tell you what, man, this wide angle lens, super cool for getting underneath here. So anyways, 13, 13, 11, 11, 11. This is the part of the job that sucks because you have like no room to do anything in here. Like everything's just crescent wrenches, and it's just like boop, boop, and you're here for a while, and your wrists and your forearms end up hurting. But you know, you end up thinking about stuff like, you know, daydreaming about that next purchase, the next thing you're gonna do. You just sit back, relax, and you're gonna be under here for a while. So yeah, everything just gets snugged up. Don't go crazy because it's little threads that we're dealing with here, and you don't want to round these off. Snug it up. Same with these. Snug them up. Put your guys on there. Connect your hoses to the brake lines, and that's it. And then from here you bleed and hope that nothing leaks out of here while you're doing that. And the bleeding procedure is furthest away to closest to the master cylinder. So you're going to start with the passenger side rear wheel, driver side rear wheel, passenger front, driver front, and that's your bleeding. You know how to bleed. Get it done. This is the job. Enjoy your life. Okay, I messed something up. I'm looking at the exploded diagram of the master cylinder. There's nothing that goes below that spring. That little stopper I was talking about that I thought went on the bottom of that actually goes right there. Or actually, no, it's right there. So yeah, it goes in between the two here. Nothing goes back there. But yeah, this is why a shop manual is such a good idea. Anyways, next thing we gotta do, push rod adjustment. This has turned into one of those jobs, man. You know what I was talking about not doing? is over tightening this. And look what I did. Shoot it right off. So now we get to see, well, you guys get to see one of my favorite videos to watch on YouTube is videos of guys doing bolt extractions. But the thing is that they're fun to watch, not fun to do. But this time I'm not going to screw it up. I'm going to get this right. So, what I'm going to use? What am I going to use? Well, some bolts, or some, what do you call them? What do you call those things that you use to drill things out? Drill bits. And then these to get it out. So first thing I gotta do is drill this, but I need to remember how I was saying about that depth gauge. I gotta make sure that I don't do that. So I think I have some older brake switches lying around. I think I'm gonna use that to measure. So give me a second. I gotta find them. Found them. These guys. These are actually the original ones that came off the car. But they're not OE. This one might be. This one isn't. The weird thing is like I was thinking like, oh, you know, like because this one was leaking, but this one wasn't. I was like, oh well, it's probably because I didn't screw it in all the way. I just screwed it till it was really, really tight. This one didn't leak. This one did. So I'm wondering if the threads in here didn't just strip. I'm hoping that's not the case, because then I have to clean out those threads in there. And I really don't want to do that. Anyways, let's find a good drill bit to use. Because if I'm using those extractors, I definitely want, what do you call it? I want to use the biggest extractor I can, so I think I'll just go with, I'll start there. What is this? A 5/16? Okay. Whatever that is. And once you know it, there's already a pilot hole for me. Isn't that nice? Alright. Some tape. Set my depth correctly. God damn it. Fine, I won't use gloves. What am I doing? There we go. So it's about down to there. And a little less. This should be enough. That right there. Let's do that again. You hear that? Dash hounds, man. You'd think it's a good idea because they're so cute. But they are noisy, hateful things. There we go. There's my depth gauge. That should be enough. Alright, wish me luck. Okay. All right. Am I gonna get lucky today? Am I really taking this one? Big old boy right here? Yep. am I going to... Oh, wait. Do I have a vice grip? Yeah, I do. Of course I do. Is it going to be... Nope. Okay. Moment of truth. Oh, good. It's going. Cool. Would you look at that? Old Mike knows how to do a thing or two sometimes. Alright, now I get to see what condition the threads are in, because I have a sneaking suspicion that I'm going to have to rechase all these threads. Did my depth gauge work? Oh yeah, it did. Look at that. Look at that. Like an old Mike. Old Mike's got it right this time. Okay. Let's take a look at this. The threads look good on the inside. And the threads look good on here. So I don't understand why the hell, and this has happened only on the OE ones, I don't understand why these freaking threads just don't, like, and they just don't thread nicely. Like, they just stop. Like, I should be able to finger tight that better, but I don't know what it is. Like, it's the same pitch and thread and all that jazz, but it's just, I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. Anyways, both of these brake light switches were working when I took them off the car. So I might as well just reuse one of them. Just frankly, I don't want to go to the goddamn auto parts. I don't want to fucking order another one of these stupid things. And it worked before, so why not? There's my depth gauge. I'm actually pretty... You can tell I did this before. You can tell I ran into this exact problem before. Because I just blew through that no problem. Alright, now what, Mike? Try and thread this back on here, I guess. Thread it back on. Get my 24 wrench. And just do the damn thing. Or I can be a lazy sack and just use that. No. Get the right tool. You've seen this before. I'll be back. Okay. Back under the car. One thing worth noting, and also I put the old brake switches on there, because like those like screw in just fine, but the ones that I'm getting new are just real pains in the asses of getting in there. So I don't know. Anyways, those worked, so I'm just gonna use them again. That sort of broke my advice of, well, just get new stuff. Well, the new stuff is causing me problems. This stuff isn't. Anyways, so one thing, when you're reinstalling the master cylinder, where's my fingers, is that there's a push rod that goes and connects from the brake pedal assembly to this. And it's like a little hole that you got to get the push rod into, otherwise your brakes aren't going to work. So there's a little porthole here that I stick a screwdriver in to sort of like help the push rod go into the master cylinder properly, and you can sort of see it if you like shine a light from your pedal assembly here, or like shine a light from your pedal assembly. You can see sort of what's going on in this little porthole here, and yeah, you can line it up a lot easier. Just, you know, get a screwdriver in there and try and move the push rod around a little bit to get it in here. It's a little finagly, but eventually it goes. But that's extremely important. Yeah, So I'm gonna bolt all this stuff up again for the third time and try and end it for the day. All right, guys, I wanted to tie a bow on the end of this job real quick and just talk about the push rod adjustment there. There's really not a lot to it. Once you get back in there, you'll see that there's a little bolt that you need to loosen, and it'll allow the brake to go basically back and forth and you adjust. But I wouldn't do that until you have bled your brakes a couple times, because this car takes a couple attempts to get the brakes bled correctly. Like, being that you're doing an entire, essentially like brake fluid flush, really, you have to bleed the entire system. Now, what helped was a power bleeder just to get brake fluid to come through the the four wheels of the car. But after that, I always trust like traditional bleeding methods to get it working right. So someone in the driver's seat pumping away, and then, you cracking the nipple and like all that stuff. Like, you guys know how to bleed brakes. But only after I was getting proper stiffness in the brake pedal, then I went in and I thought, like, do I need to adjust the brake pedal at all for the travel? And for me, no. Like, it starts catching right about there. That's when the brake starts. And if you look in the manual, that's about the amount of travel that you want. So just guesstimating it, that's around where it needs to be as far as travel goes. Then that's right there. That's when the brake starts operating. So it's basically what it is. Don't give up on bleeding. It took me 2 separate attempts, because I bled it once and then got it out on the road and I wasn't happy with it. And I bled it again, got some more bubbles out, and now I'm fairly happy with it. And I bet if I bleed it a third time, I'll find more bubbles in the system, and probably a fourth time I'll get it even better. But that's just sort of how it is. I'm happy with how it drives right now. That's pretty much it. I don't know why I was so zoomed in. This is perfectly fine. But yeah, travel is like that. That's free play. And then the brake starts functioning properly. That's it. I think all that's left for me to do now is eventually make a video of everything the car's done. I drive it to work now. It's pretty good. Anywho, that'll wrap up the brake video. Hope it was at least somewhat illuminating. But yeah, have a good day. Bye.